All right. We are back here on the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. Charlie Burris, Zach Ragan, wherever you listen throughout the world, thank you very much for tuning in to us. Another recorded segment here this week, just more scheduling stuff. This week, more than anything, it was that we wanted to do the show after Heupel talked at Media Days, which made it already on Tuesday. And then here we are recording another segment. But except I will say our maybe we need to record more often. Our numbers have been good on the recorded segments. So thank you to everybody new who has listened and tuned in. We appreciate it. But let's get down to brass tacks. I guess. What's up, Zach?
Not a whole lot. Just feels like football season's here now. It's July 15th,
Doesn't
but
it?
still what 6 weeks, 7 weeks to go until Tennessee plays their first game. But once media days happens, man, it's a full go. I mean, you're all in
Yep.
on fall practice
It is
ready to
time.
start. Yeah, and real quick, I will say I know we're not going to talk about this much, but or at all probably, but congrats to former Vols offensive lineman Trey Smith. Set the
Oh,
record highest paid guard in NFL history with a 4-year
yep.
deal worth like 90, I think it was 94 million, 70 million guaranteed. No one deserves it more than that guy. I mean, not many 5-star recruits go through the journey he went through of seeing his career almost end with blood clots at Tennessee, being a 6th-round pick, having to prove himself on one of the best teams in the NFL. So he deserves everything he's earned there.
I mean, the blood clots thing has to be the craziest part. Is that it was really in jeopardy whether his NFL career was going to happen at all.
Yeah, I mean, at one
And
time we thought he might not even play again at Tennessee.
yeah, I remember it well. I was still covering the team at that point, and man, and now highest paid dude in the game.
Good for him.
Congratulations to him. Now, speaking of players getting paid, let's talk recruiting for Tennessee football, but also Tennessee baseball. I guess we can start with baseball, and then we'll eventually we're going to get to media days and Heupel being a media days. That'll be the last thing that we get to because it's the big topic. But just quickly, we can't pass by the fact that the MLB draft happened in days prior. And Tennessee lost some players to the MLB draft. Cruz Schoolcraft, who it looked like an absolute ace pitcher coming in, gets drafted pretty high. He's not coming. Couple of transfers. One that you pretty much knew wasn't coming, and then another that was kind of in the air. They're both going, and that was who was that? Barr and Matt Barr and
Conrad. Well, Conrad was
yeah,
a target. Target was a target,
no,
right? He hadn't really.
why am I? There was so many dudes.
Yes.
Thinking about it, but regardless, they're transfers who aren't coming to Tennessee, so it doesn't even matter. But what also ended up happening was a string of guys who didn't get drafted that you thought might. Dalton Bargo and some other guys that are currently on the team and now you assume are going to be coming back. And then you got some freshmen that you weren't sure you were going to get, and they are coming. And so just a really big haul. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you really look at it. Let's see who are some of these guys. So Cameron Appenzeller will be coming to play for Tennessee. Ethan Moore will be coming to play for Tennessee. Both like top 100, top 50 guys, super highly rated. That skipped their draft options. And then of your transfers, Henry Ford from Virginia will be coming. Evan Blanco from Virginia will be coming. We assume. I don't think Ford hasn't actually said, but they didn't get drafted. So
Yeah.
You assume that they're coming back. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself. A little bit of a kind of super teamish thing forming with this squad right now where you go, oh, we are really outside of Cruz Schoolcraft not coming. You're really getting a collection of dudes where you could have a pretty bad lineup, and bad meaning good next year. Pretty nasty lineup there is maybe a better word. What do you think about how that roster's coming into form, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tony Vitello entered this offseason on a mission, and he's accomplishing that mission, as well as he could to this point. I mean, it really is a nice looking roster with a lot of talent. Vitello, even though Tennessee didn't win the national championship, I think people kind of forget about that after watching the MLB draft if you watched it Sunday night on MLB Network, because Vitello was part of the coverage. And by the way, he is fantastic on that coverage. He's at the UFC fight late Saturday night, and he goes to Atlanta. Looks like he hasn't missed a beat. It looked like he's having a good time Saturday night. The videos we saw of him sitting there close to Will Compton and some of those guys, but just a pro. Like he knows when to talk, when to kind of hang back. He doesn't just go, he's very complimentary of other programs' players that he's played against. He's just really good in that role. And it's just free advertising. I mean, one Tennessee player after another, or a guy that's committed to Tennessee is getting drafted. And you got Dan O'Dowd, who's on their coverage. He's a former MLB general manager, and he's basically doing, the recruiting pitch for Vitello. It's like, hey, if you're a transfer and you see these transfers like Gavin Keelan and Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher going to Tennessee and then getting drafted in the first round, it's like, that seems like a pretty good deal, right? So, I mean, the publicity that Tennessee got from that, not that they need a lot of extra publicity at this point or help in recruiting, but that just makes Vitello's job even easier. But at the same time, the MLB draft reminds you of why Vitello's job is also very difficult. Being the IT school means you can attract almost any high school player that you want, but you have no idea if you're going to get that player or not, because if they're too good, they'll get drafted in the first round, like we saw with a couple of Tennessee commits. And then you've got guys that get drafted in the later rounds, and the money game kind of gets played, and you just really don't know how that's going to play out. You might have an idea of how it's going to play out, and then even with transfers now, like you were talking about, like with Henry Ford and some of the other guys that Tennessee had in the boat, some coming, some not. Like it's a really tough job, because you can go get whoever you want pretty much if you're Vitello at this point, but you just don't know if they're actually going to make it to Knoxville. So you got to cover yourself in such a way that you kind of over recruit and just trust that it'll work itself out. And it seems like it is for Tennessee.
It definitely is. Just every step that this guy takes is, it's seemingly, I don't know. I mean, obviously maybe his coaching job this past season wasn't absolutely golden, but it just, everything the guy does is just, it's elite. Like he just is that guy. He is him, if that's what the kids are saying, right? And you have the most kind of stylish program in America, national championship in your pocket. Everybody loves you. Everybody wants to come and play for you. You this time around, because LSU was playing in the College World Series and you weren't, you absolutely wiped the floor with the transfer portal. I mean, it just is, it's special stuff with Vitello, and he's going to have a national championship level roster this coming year. Period. That's what's, barring major injuries, that's what's about to happen. And I'm really excited to see it. It should be a very good time watching those guys play. But we can't dwell too long on baseball. Just almost more of a shout out to Tony Vitello there and the job that he's doing. And now to football, where we're finally kind of turning that gauge over to football season, as you said, Zach. SEC Media Days today, and it's always a circus, just completely clown show all the way around, and I mean that in a kind way. I've been a number of times myself, and it just is usually ridiculous, except when Josh Heupel shows up, he does his absolute darndest to make sure that it is as nondescript, as boring, as, no quotes that you're going to be able to use, nothing. And he pretty much accomplished that today in his talk at the podium. He did get asked about Nico. It was a little bit of a soft version of the question, if you're asking me. People could have gone harder at him about that. I'm not saying they should have. I'm just saying they could have, and they just didn't. And he just kind of talked around it and was just sort of like, we want to talk about the guys that are in the room, not the guys that are out of it, or whatever. That's been his line the entire time. You heard most of what Heupel had to say today, Zach. What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a fun little beginning to his session. Coaches go to media days. They usually talk to some local reporters before they go on the main stage, and there's a breakout session. There's different, times that they're up there talking to people. And so the first time that he was in front of any reporters before he had went into the main room, he's gathered around there with some local media, and Brent Hubbs from VolQuest, I guess the Don of Knoxville media at this point, if you will, just throws out immediately like, hey, who's your starting quarterback going to be, kind of in a jokey manner. And just right off the bat, got it out of the way, got a laugh out of everybody. And Heupel just said it. We'll see. And I don't think that's him being coy at this point as we progress into fall camp and they've seen these guys around the team and in practice. He'll probably be coy when he has a pretty good idea, deep down of who it's going to be. But it really does seem like a truly open quarterback competition. And I thought that was the message that he was making sure to send to his team, to his players, or his coaches, fans, whoever. Like, hey, somebody has to go earn this job. And I think Heupel was very deliberate in wording it that way because, he said the players need to see the guy earn this job. So bringing Aguilar in, who's got the experience, who a lot of people have kind of handicapped as the favorite in this battle. If he does win the job, I guess on the outside, it could look like, hey, it was his job all along. It wasn't really a fair battle. Maybe, Mertlinger would think that, or McIntyre, some of the other guys battling for this job. But it's like he just wanted that out in the open. Like, hey, so everybody knows, like, somebody's got to go earn this thing. Like, and the players need to see him do that in practice. So this isn't going to be, well, he got here late and he has only got, a month in the offense through fall camp with the actual team running stuff. So maybe we think he'll get better as the season progresses. It's not going to be that. Like, if Aguilar's not ready, it won't be him. It'll be Mertlinger. And that to me was the message that was delivered from Heupel. And on top of that, I think that was the main message. And then the other main message from Heupel and his players was they're pissed off about that loss to Ohio State. It left a bad taste in their mouth. And that is what in Heupel's words, spurred them on through the summer to get where they need to be this season to compete. And I don't know what to expect from this team. We've talked about this, since April when Nico left for UCLA. We have no idea what to really expect from this team. There's so many questions they have to answer. But, man, they really do seem motivated and ready to go. And they love the fact that everybody's kind of counting them out.
Yeah, I would say that's exciting because it's not the first time we've heard Heupel say something like that, but it feels the most real this time because of how embarrassed you got against Ohio State and how, honestly, how close you got to actual, competing for that national championship.
I mean, you're a college football playoff committee away from getting a favorable matchup in the first round and maybe the second round, and suddenly you're in the top four very easily.
Exactly.
With the way Tennessee played last season.
Yeah, if they switched the rules, and if it was during this offseason, if it was the current rules, Tennessee would have played SMU in the first round inside Neyland Stadium, which would have been a win, and you would have advanced. And then we're thinking about last season completely differently, and Nico still might leave. But you're at least kind of going, okay, well, this is a whole separate deal. We made it to the playoff. We won a playoff game. It would have had you feeling a different way for sure. And so I like it because we've talked about it plenty here, specifically on the recruiting trail until just recently. Heupel kind of takes it a little easy. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to characterize that. He's just not as hair on fire as other guys that you see. He's not, especially with recruiting, he's not as much of a used car salesman, as much of just that, like, down, dirty, in the snake pit, doing whatever it takes to win recruiting battles. He's much more selective. He's much more, we need guys. We're recruiting to a culture. We're recruiting all, everything that we know about him at this point as far as recruiting goes. And maybe something to cause some desperation needed to happen. And because I don't want to just tie 1-to-1 here, but the recruiting in the last few weeks, we've talked about it on here. The recruiting has really taken a step up. It's been a really impressive run. It seemed like it's been a 4-star committing to Tennessee every day for the last month. And so that's nice. I don't want to say that he needed to have a fire lit under his butt, but in some sense, it kind of felt that way, and I'm glad to hear him say something like that.
Yeah, I agree. It does. We've kind of heard some of this talk before from Heupel. This does feel more genuine, and I want to say genuine. It feels more authentic, I guess I would say. in 23, you heard players talking about wanting to get to Atlanta and win a national championship. And that was, going into the season with Joe Milton as the quarterback. And we all kind of fell for that a little bit, thinking that team was probably better than it was. Just the quarterback situation limited them. The wide receivers weren't good enough. There's a myriad of reasons that they went 9-4 and didn't play better. But coming off that 22 season, I mean, you can be mad about the way they lost to South Carolina and cost themselves a spot in the playoff, but that team was never going to beat Georgia or anybody in the playoff, probably after Hooker went down, because that was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. So the fact that you came out and beat Clemson in the Orange Bowl and finished with 11 wins, there was more reasons to celebrate after that season. So going into 23, that motivation factor wasn't quite as high. And then I think going into 24, you weren't really pissed off about 9-4 because you kind of knew what Joe Milton was, right? Like nobody at Tennessee ever wants to say it. We've heard the lines from Joey Hosley and Josh Heupel where they tried to pump Joe Milton up. But look, Milton's a great guy. I wish the best for him with the Dallas Cowboys, but he is who he is as a quarterback. And I think everyone knew that. So going into the 24 season was like, okay, you're turning the page with Nico. It's his first season as a starter. Yes, we have high expectations, but he's still a freshman, redshirt freshman. And coming out of last season now, where you lost the way you did to Ohio State, and then you lose your starting quarterback the way that you did, and the team's kind of rallied around both of those things. It feels like there's more of a reason to be together as a team going into this 25 season. And really, based on what we heard from Miles Kitselman today, this team really is together. I mean, he's talking about 50, 60 guys hanging out by the pool on a Thursday afternoon, just talking football and going over, their position tests that they have every week, and just, being all in and bought into being a team and to, trying to achieve this one goal that they have, which is, really just as cliche as it is to go 1-0 each week, to win each week and see where you are at the end of the season. In a weird way, all of this, the loss to Ohio State, the loss of Nico, it brought them all closer together. It lit a fire maybe under Heupel, knowing that his roster has to be better if he's going to compete with what they lost to in Columbus last season. Though as much as it sucked to lose that game, and it sucked, and as much as it sucked to go through all the Nico stuff in April, it might end up being the best things that's ever happened to Heupel. And he's at this point, he is right now at the exact point that Butch Jones was after 2016, right? Going into year 5. You haven't seen a coach advance past year 5 at Tennessee since Philip Fulmer. So it's been a long time since somebody's kind of got over this hump, because it's kind of like that deal with a marriage or something. It's like you got to get over the 7-year itch. And it's kind of that right here with college football. Like, this is where you've got to take the next step if you're Heupel, prove that you have staying power in the SEC, and prove that you can take this program back to being a national championship contender like it was when we were growing up every single year. So we'll see. That's a lot to project on this team, but I think it's something to be optimistic about, and reason for fans to be really excited going into this season, even though we really don't know what to expect.
We really don't, which is sort of the bottom line of everything. It's kind of everybody's guess is as good as anybody else's when it comes to this team coming up, and all the way down to the fact that we don't even know. I mean, I think we might know, but we don't even know who your starting quarterback is going to be. And so here we are with SEC Media Days down. And I guess I'll say, did anything that the players say strike you at all?
I think it was more just what I talked about there with Kitselman, and you kind of heard that tone from Bryson Eason and Arian Carter as well. Just this team really seems together and focused on the same goal. They seem to have rallied around everything that happened in April. They seem fired up about the fact that nobody's given this team a chance, right? Like if you check out the college football playoff predictions, none of them have Tennessee, unless it's some random Tennessee fan site or something. None of them have Tennessee in that 12-team playoff, and that's fair based on what we know about this team. A lot of questions answered, a lot of questions. But this team knows who they are. They believe in each other, and Miles Kitselman. I don't know if you have that quote pulled up from Miles Kitselman to ESPN's Chris Lowe, but what he said uh, it, it, it kind of makes you feel like, okay, maybe this team does have some of that 22 magic in it because maybe they know something we don't. Like that was kind of the feeling I got from this team a little bit. And they weren't trying to hint at it. It was kind of a feeling of these guys are aware of something with this team that we as fans aren't.
Kitzelman said, "There's a lot of people that don't expect anything out of us, and I absolutely love that. You guys are going to look up midseason and go, Tennessee is 7-0. They're doing it." And we we noticed this before the show started. Obviously, for one, that would mean Tennessee beats Georgia, which to go 7-0. And then also Miles Kitzelman, of course, transferred to Tennessee from Alabama. And the seventh game of the season is the Alabama Crimson Tide for Tennessee. So he's kind of sending a little message going like, we're gonna win these games. You think not supposed to. And that bravado is great. I love Kitzelman a lot. Like every time he gets up and talks, he's a fun listen, which I at least appreciate that Heupel's letting somebody like that talk, because usually it's just whatever guy will say the absolute least amount of stuff. That's who Heupel's trying to get up there. But yeah, it's good. I like the mentality of this team. Obviously, I want to hear from Joey Aguilar. And
I know. I mean, that is the big mystery. We were texting about this earlier, and we were talking about Josh Heupel's kind of media session there. Not that I've heard, at least. Has anyone asked Heupel why Joey Aguilar? Because I'm super interested in that. Like, did Josh Heupel know who Joey Aguilar really was before Nico transferred? Was he aware of him? Had he seen him for any reason on tape? You never know what coaches know and check out and all that. And then when this whole thing happened with Nico, is it just like Aguilar by default because you couldn't get anyone else? Because we know they made offers to other quarterbacks that ultimately didn't want to leave their schools. What was there anything that beyond just like he's available that made you want this guy? His personality, anything? I would love to hear Heupel answer that question genuinely. But then the other thing though is that we did get to hear a little bit about Aguilar through Kitzelman and some of these guys. Today they were asked how he is as a teammate, how he's been since he arrived in Knoxville, and all that stuff was great. That he's down for whatever, is what Kitzelman said. He's like, if you call him up and say, hey, we're gonna go hang out here, he's there. So that to me tells me that he understands that he has to make the effort to build a connection with these guys off the field. I mean, that's obviously super important, team connectivity. It's cliche, but it is what you got to do to win
it's
games.
Real.
Yeah, it's a real thing. So he is obviously putting in the effort to fast track that over these couple of months in the summertime, because he's obviously way behind on that. And that to me is huge. That's kind of the bare minimum you have to do if you're in that situation, though. So it's not like I'm praising Aguilar for that, but it is good to see, right? Like you would hate for Kitzelman to get up there and be like, yeah, I don't really know much about the guy, to be honest. I mean, that would be quite a red flag. So Aguilar's at least doing the right things. The fact that he's been so quiet, hasn't spoke once since transferring to Tennessee. I follow him on Instagram, and he'll post some stuff on his Instagram stories, and you'll see him in Tennessee gear. You'll see him at Top Golf out there quite a bit. But other than that, it's like he's not talking trash. He's not posting videos of himself working out all the time. I mean, he's went about his work very quietly. So that tells me he has some self-awareness, right? Like he knows the kind of situation he's stepping into. Let my play on the field do the talking type of thing. So I'm optimistic about what Aguilar has to offer, but I'm also like you. I'm super curious to find out who this dude is, because we know zero about him.
Seriously, today on his Instagram story posted a sermon from Heart and Soul Church, and then the picture of the three guys going to SEC Media Days, and then a clip of Heupel talking at SEC Media Days, and that's it. And his top post on there is of him and his girlfriend for actual pictures that are on there, posted on June 11th. So, that was after he showed up at Tennessee. I mean, that's all we know. There you go. That's maybe religious. likes Josh Heupel's press conferences, which would make him a little different than me. And yeah, so I obviously, at least hopefully, those answers will come in the near future when camp actually kicks up. But yeah, as of now, not a ton as far as media days go. And with Heupel, it's never really going to be. That was his mission, and his mission accomplished. I did see it was a tweet where he mentioned that Tennessee is the real UT and said something about Texas, who was today was Texas Day also. They brought Arch Manning. I love that. Heupel has made comments like that before. That's amazing. Continue doing that.
That was he did his little like interview session on the SEC Network set, live during their broadcast, and that's usually when you get Heupel at his best, right? When he's talking to guys he knows. There's a couple of ex-athletes up there. That's who he is, right? Like he's at his core an Big 12 quarterback at Oklahoma. So he identifies with those guys. I think he feels more comfortable talking to those media types. You usually get him at his most relaxed then. So that's when you kind of get some of the good stuff, I guess you'd say, from Heupel. Like he talked about Nico up there. He said he loves Nico. He's like, the guys in the locker room care about Nico. I wish the best for Nico. He's going to be a good football player. Just what happened. Things went the way they did, and Tennessee's where they are now, and Nico's where he's at now, and that's kind of the mindset he has about it. I don't feel like there's any animosity there, whatever happened behind the scenes. But he followed that up. That was like the last comment that he made there as they were going to commercial break. Steve Sarkisian was getting ready to step up to the podium, the Texas head coach. And I can't remember how it came across, but he said something about like, yeah, don't say it. That's not the real UT. And he said, all I have to say is Davy Crockett. And that was kind of the end of his segment.
So good.
So Vols fans love that for sure.
Yes, that stuff can absolutely continue forever. I do like that he finally mentioned Nico. That's nice, because that answer with let's talk about the guys in the building. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Give us a little something here.
I mean, we know you're not going to divulge everything that happened, and parts of that situation will be a mystery to all of us for a long time because there's so many different sides, and you kind of got to pick what you want to believe, and it is what it is. But clearly, like Arian Carter talked about Nico a little bit, said they still talk, and that's his guy, but no one's bigger than the Power T. So, they understand the situation, but they're not out there like, God, I hate Nico. Like we're this season is revenge on Nico for leaving. Like I think if that was their mindset, this team would be in trouble because you're focusing on the wrong things. Then that's it. He's at UCLA. We're all going to keep tabs on him. We're all going to watch what he does every Saturday. Tennessee's players are going to know what he does every Saturday, but that can't be their single motivating factor for this season.
Definitely not. And thankfully, it sounds like it's not going to be. So anything else with football from today, Zach? Obviously, we're going to keep on covering everything and talking about football until camp actually hits. But anything else before we try to make it to camp?
Yeah, I think one interesting move from this offseason that I think was really underrated and hasn't been talked about a lot that Heupel kind of made a quick comment about, but I thought was real telling was, he brought in Seth Littrell, his old Oklahoma teammate, to be an analyst at Tennessee. And Littrell's been a head coach before. He was an offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Did not go well. Got fired pretty quickly by Brent Venables for whatever reason. I don't know everything that was going on with Oklahoma's offense last season, but it was a mess. So was Tennessee's at the time. But Littrell's an accomplished coach. He's won a national championship as a player. He's really well respected among coaches, and he's somebody that Josh Heupel trusts in the sense that I think Littrell and Heupel can be super honest with each other. Littrell's probably never going to be anything more than an analyst at Tennessee. I don't think he's going to go be Josh Heupel's offensive coordinator if something happens to Joey Hosley, right? Like I think he's preparing for his next opportunity. So this is kind of an in-between spot for him. But Heupel said that Littrell's somebody that can be clear in his communication with me. And to me, that was code for he can be straight up with me. He can be honest with me.
Good.
And he added is like he's hopefully somebody that can bring some ideas to the offense and things that we can try and areas that we're not great in, we can get better in, and he can kind of see it from an outside view. But I think Heupel needs somebody that is clear in his communication with him because Joey Hasley was Josh Heupel's player at Oklahoma. You know, when Heupel was the offensive coordinator back in, you know, the mid to late 2000s. And I feel like that relationship is always going to be kind of coach student there with Hasley. Whereas Golish was different. Golish had got to that point on his own. And that's not taking anything away from Joey Hasley. I don't know much about his career path outside of the fact that he's at Tennessee now. But Golish was at UCF and at Tennessee because of what he accomplished before he met Josh Heupel. I think he was more comfortable and did it, and their relationship, as we know, was great, but he was more comfortable in being that guy. And I think Heupel's missed that since Golish left after 22, and I don't know how much of an impact Seth Luttrell will have on this offense, but I think it's a good thing that he's got somebody there that can be straight up with him and won't be afraid to disagree with him or to point out things that just aren't working or need to change or anything like that. So, you know, maybe that's something that can really help this offense, you know, turn the corner and get back to what it was a couple of years ago.
It would be really nice because we've talked about it. It seems like Heupel is all buddy hires. I mean, this was a buddy hire with Seth Luttrell for sure, but all buddy hires, all promotion from within. Doesn't like to rock the symbiosis, however you would say it, in his staff. And it would be really nice if there was a guy that could say when something sucks, you know, that'll actually tell you what's up, and you're not just Coach Heupel to him.
Yeah, these guys were teammates, right? Like they were in the trenches together, right? Yeah. Like they were equals. I think Luttrell was even there at Oklahoma before Heupel, so that kind of the way your relationship begins, like it's always going to kind of be that way. And that's why I think what he has to offer versus what Joey Hasley and some of these other guys that Alec Abelin, you know, the tight ends coach was at Missouri when Heupel was a coach, like that's just, you're always like, that's always the boss. That's always the coach. And I think Luttrell, like that relationship's so different that I think there's a trust there and an ability to be brutally honest with each other that is much needed if you're in the SEC, because you've got to be willing to adapt and change.
Yeah, well, and he was even a head coach.
North Texas.
I think I knew this. Yep, North Texas from 2016 to 2022. So you got
I think
not
Mike
just
Eckler
a guy
was there with him at one of those years, the gypsy Mike Eckler.
Oh, Mike. But so I mean, you got a guy who not only is kind of direct contemporaries with Heupel, but head coach, former head coach, and knows that life. And it's not the same as an SEC program, but can certainly relate and speak to how that goes. Yeah. So I hope that becomes a big factor because, man, everybody's been saying since the day Golish left, oh, was it Golish? Was he the trick to the offense? Was that the I don't care what it was. But if you need somebody who will look you in the face and tell you the real hard truth, and that's what's been missing, good.
Yeah.
And hopefully Luttrell can be that. I guess we'll see when the offense takes the field. I guess our barometer there be, will Tennessee have whole first halves where they don't score a single point this season? And they score in every first half.
Yeah, Heupel was asked about the slow starts today, but he really didn't have a good answer. He's like, yeah, you score early, it can change the way the football game's played. But if you don't score early, you still have to keep trying to score. I was like, well, man.
What a revelation.
Yes.
Boy. Well, there you go. Charlie Burris, Zach Ragan. I think that is a show for this week. As I said, we will be back talking everything Vols about the ongoing saga that is Tennessee football, and hope that, you know, finally getting more into the mood of wanting to talk football, wanting to see football. It's taken a while, but it's really hitting me. now with media days. So let's get to it. All right. Thanks to everybody for listening. We truly appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. Say it every week, but I genuinely mean it. That's all. We will talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.